another episode. Fantastic. Welcome to the Red Hot Underdogs, ladies and gentlemen. I am AnzaK, and we are here for your entertainment or lack of entertainment. And with me tonight, bringing the entertainment or lack of entertainment, is yours truly, the ever incredible, long contained, often imitated, never duplicated, He-Man, master of the universe, Drewy.
Hey, buddy. Welcome to the podcast that is always a day out and $1 short. And by the way, for all you listeners, we're not doing it at the night. It's in the day. But that's a very Red Hot Underdogs thing to say, that we're doing it at night when we're actually in the day. But that's okay.
Yeah.
How are you, big guy?
Good. But hang on. So we're always a day. What do you say? We're always $1 short?
Day out and $1 short.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I'm always, that just summed up my life. A day out, $1 short.
Mine too, pretty much. Just jumping into things. Look, we've got so much to cover today.
So much.
It's just an absolute minefield. It's a maze. It's a labyrinth.
It's a labyrinth.
I'll get into the NRL scores to begin with.
Yep.
The Cowboys 38 beat a very much second string Storm side 30. So 38 points to 30 over the Melbourne Storm. The Cowboys won. Manly Sea Eagles 34 beat the Canterbury Bulldogs 22.
Yes.
The Penrith Panthers 34 beat the South Sydney Rabbitohs 12 in a bit of a snoozer.
Good. It was good.
The Eels did one of the best impersonations of Manly that you'll ever see, but they still got the points. The Eels won 44 over the Dragons 40.
Yes.
And just a side note, that 40 points that the Dragons got, although they lost, they did get a certain achievement in that game. That 40 points is the biggest total by a losing side in NRL history.
Okay. Yep.
The next game was the Dolphins 40 to well and truly put a knife straight through the Broncos' chances. Any slim chances have very much evaporated.
Yes.
Dolphins 40 beat the Broncos 6.
Up the fins.
And the Warriors sent retiring Sean Johnson out in the best possible way with a 30 points to 28 win over the Sharks. So well done, the Warriors. Well done to Sean Johnson. It's a very nice way to end what is a very disappointing season, but a good night for them nonetheless.
Yep. Well, let's get straight on to the most important game. Manly versus the Doggies. We won. What a game. Drewy, give us a bit of a play-by-play. I'm thrilled with this result. Absolutely bloody. I don't know if I'm more thrilled or more relieved. I'm actually more relieved at this stage.
Yeah, look, I won't go too much into who scored what and what did what, but I'll give a general outline of the game.
Yep.
It was 24-12 at half time, and at full time it was 34 points to 22. Both sides were very rough and rugged, I should say, and
tough and tugged. Tough and
rough and tugged. There, that's pure Underdogs lingo. Yep. Beautiful. No, but both sides, very brutal. I think Manly did one thing that other sides haven't done against the Bulldogs this year, which is really take them on in the middle. Now, Manly have been known to try and cut corners, be ill-disciplined, try too many flashy things. I think the game last week against the Tigers, where they got a great big boot up the arse, that served them extremely well in this game, because they really were focused from the outset, and they really beat down the Bulldogs' door by giving it to them up the middle, straight up the middle, just smashing them.
The forwards won it. And they're great games, aren't they?
They did. I think that might be a little bit of a blueprint for other sides to potentially beat the Bulldogs going through. I'm not saying it's a one-size-fits-all, but I think there's a certain path there when you look at that in order to beat the Bulldogs.
Yep.
Although it wasn't all plain sailing for Manly. Jason Saab is injured for at least 3 to 4 weeks, so he might miss the semis or come in late if we get to a certain point in the semis. We're in the knockout rounds anyway of it, so we'll see how that one goes. But the story of the night, Tom Trbojevic, injured, grade 3 AC joint. Issue. So
it wasn't the head. The head and the cut was just so much blood, and that's why everybody was talking about it. I almost felt like, after the pre-match interviews, they were all like, "Oh, what about Tommy, forgetting about Saab?" Like, imagine watching that and being Saab or being Saab's family. You'd be like, "Geez, I'm really not the star of this game." But anyway, that I guess that's happens, doesn't it? But
it's life, isn't it? The name wins the game. You see that all the time in life with a certain A-side name, no matter how good the other guy is.
Seabold said he'd be back, not next week, but the week after, because they said it's just pain, managing pain, and they the creams and pills and
essentially what they'll do is they'll give him a pain-killing injection or a couple of them leading into the semi-finals. We can't be knocked out of the semi-finals. He won't play against Cronulla next week. However, he will be there for the first semi-final. Hopefully it'll hold up. They say that a grade 3, funnily enough, it's not as much pain as a grade 1, even though it's a higher grade of severity. The difference is with a grade 3, you don't have as much strength or mobility in the arm, and that can be a bit of a problem. However, needle him up, see how he goes.
So they'll put him on in a couple of weeks' time. He will be playing, regardless.
I also just want to give a quick shout out to the Manly forwards, Paseka and Olakawatu and Brown. They were absolutely amazing. Even Matt Lodge, who came back. The forwards, I really feel, won the night for Manly. As good as the backs were, and Cherry Evans and Brooks were awesome, but for me, it was the forwards that really won it for them. And you know what? If you're a Bulldogs supporter, you can't hang your head too low, because Manly really had to be on point all game to win that.
It wasn't Bulldogs play badly, was it? It was just that
it wasn't.
I tell you what, anyone in that top 8 will have watched that, because Bulldogs are the on-form team and have been for months and months. They don't want to be facing Manly. Out of that, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, I bet Manly is the least favourite to be facing out of all those. Speaking of that, I know what they are, but what are the scenarios? Let's talk scenarios. So nothing is set in stone, but it is a bit of a kind of like the last round. It's the last round. Like it can change a bit, but
it can.
The only, here I am, I asked you a question and I'm answering it. The only thing that is in benefit of Manly winning next week is getting a home match, in that first knockout, the first final. And is that important, Drewy? How important is a home game? There you go.
Yeah, I've discussed this with you before, and I will say this. Home game is great. Let me preface this by saying everybody is going to shoot for that home game, as they should. You get that extra support. It's awesome. But here's a controversial take. I find it a little touch overrated. It's great. You want to get it. So I can't stress that enough. But I don't think that it's the big steroid-induced injection that everybody thinks it is. I'll tell you why. It's awesome. It lifts you. I get it. But when the players start playing and the adrenaline's gone after 3 or 4 minutes and you're in the heat of the battle,
Yeah.
You've got to make a tackle, throw an important pass, do an important kick,
Yep.
take an important catch.
Yep.
You're not there in the moment thinking, oh, gee, I'm glad I've got my home crowd behind me.
Not a bookie.
Oh,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
I don't have my home crowd there. How am I going to deal with this?
Yep.
You're basically locked in that zone dealing with what you need to deal with within the match itself.
Yeah. But statistically, teams win more at home than they do away. All teams, especially Manly. But so that's why it's worth going very hard next week. And does a win next week guarantee Manly a home game? Yes, it does. Yeah,
it absolutely does.
It does, because the Sharks play the Cowboys play the doggies. So one of those is going to lose. One of those is going to lose.
Correct.
So actually, that's our only option, isn't it? We are only going to be playing the Cowboys or the Dogs, either at home or away.
Yeah, just like my shirt says,
yes,
we are the masters of our own universe.
That's right.
So what we need to do essentially is there is no other option than to beat the Sharks next week.
Yep.
If we beat the Sharks, we have a home semi-final regardless.
Yep.
Now, I also went to the extra liberty of researching a certain spanner in the works, which is highly unlikely.
Yep.
But this time of year, it can always happen.
Yeah.
What happens if the Dogs and the Cowboys end up having a draw through extra point and we win? I'll tell you what happens.
Hey, tell us.
Manly still get a home semi.
Yeah. Yep.
And this is because of for and against.
Yep.
The Bulldogs for and against is 134.
Yep.
Manly's for and against is 133.
Yep.
The Cowboys for and against is 51. So it'll be the Cowboys on the short straw in that end of the equation.
Yep.
So
so that's wonderful news. We're playing for a home game, which is good, and it will be against the Dogs or the Cowboys. So my next question is, Drewy, we just beat the Doggies, all right? So who do you want to play? I know we play Sharks next weekend, but let's talk finals. Who do you want to play? Do you want to play Cowboys or do you want to play the Dogs?
Ooh, it's a hard one. There's a part of me that might want to go back to the well and play the Bulldogs again.
Me too.
We'll have a bit of confidence from that.
Me too. They probably are the better team. Well, they are the better team. And Cowboys weren't that impressive on the weekend, only just beating a B-grade Storm. Only just. Storm were up, remember? Like, they got a lot of points put on them.
I will say this. I think if someone put a gun to my head, I would probably still say the Cowboys, though. Because the Storm were without 11 regular first-grade players. And the Cowboys only won by 8 points.
And they were down half the match, too. They looked like rubbish. Yeah.
Yes. They looked terrible. They had more holes in their defence than a block of Swiss cheese. There were plenty of flaws there. And I think Manly could really exploit those flaws. And it's easy to point to Manly saying, well, we beat the Bulldogs. But guess what? Manly really had to be on our P's and Q's. And I would argue that was potentially our best game of the season.
Yep, definitely.
And we still hadn't wrapped it up until 10 minutes to go. And that's with our best. So, you know.
And
so, interesting.
Look, my answer is I think I'd like to play the Dogs. I would, because after beating them convincingly, like the players will know that, will be on the again, will hopefully be at home, and will take that, those recent memories and those experiences of how to beat them. Like they'll be all watching that game again and again and again. Like, they will analyze the fucking hell out of that match.
Yeah. This is good. I like difference.
Yeah. I want to play the Doggies because I tell you what is more rewarding? What is better, beating the Dogs or beating the cocksucking Cowboys? What is better? It's beating the Dogs. Yeah.
Mate, trust me.
Yep.
As somebody who goes through a lot of bad luck in life, like the rest of us, I'm not a lone soldier.
Yeah.
I just want the win. Whether it's a bulldog or a cowboy, I couldn't give a rat's ass. I just want the win.
All year, Drewy, people have been like doggies, they've overachieved. Let's say they play Manly. We stop them from getting in the top 4. Then they got, they come 6th, okay?
Yeah.
And then what happens? We fucking shit in their meat pie and they're fucking gone. I mean, that would be a highlight of 2024. Cheers.
Yeah.
For that. We all have a Wonder Woman in all of us, inside all of us. There you go. That's what
Beautiful. I'd probably add a bit of a piss on top of that meat pie, just for that little bit extra flavour.
Yeah.
A bit of bitterness, sweet and sour, a bit of savoury.
Yeah.
So, conjunction, just to move on from that, because it's all very interesting. There's another part of the table that's extremely interesting.
Yes.
The 8th position.
Yeah.
Now, Jesus, this is a hell of a traffic jam.
Drewy, can we get 5th position? Can Manly get 5th?
Oh.
No, because Cowboys or Dogs, one of those is going to win and one of those is going to lose. So Manly can't get to 5th, so therefore Manly will not be playing 8th.
That's okay. I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
I don't mind that.
Yep.
I'm just glad to be in the semis at this point.
I was a little bit concerned when Brisbane could have made that 8th spot. I really didn't want to.
Me too. I didn't want Brisbane in there either. I know they got flogged and I know they've been desperately out of form, but they're also the kind of team who, if they find some form, they can literally beat anybody on their day. It just has not been there in a consistent basis. In what has been an absolute car crash and horrendous season for them. But just because they've been playing badly doesn't mean that on one particular night they can get in the zone.
Yeah, I would actually rather play Doggies again than Brisbane. I know that sounds really weird. I do not want to play Brisbane, and I'm so happy that team is fucking gone. How good is that? And how awesome are the Dolphins for smashing them? And conclusively smashing them too. Like
they showed up. I think that's probably the most significant night and the most significant game in Dolphins history.
Definitely. Knocking
Brisbane out of the semi-finals.
To Suncorp, and really, like, how good is Suncorp, and beating Brisbane and knocking them out, and only one team could get through. What a match. What a
game.
What a game. So, the Finns. They're my second favourite team in there now. I know it's not conclusive that they're in it, but I really, really want them to beat they'll be playing the Cowboys or they'll be playing the Dogs. And what would be better? Maybe Cowboys. For the Dolphins to beat Brisbane and then kick out the Cowboys. I reckon that's a really big thing, Drewy. That's big.
It's a great big dose of watch this space. One of my favourite sayings that's bound to drive absolutely everybody up the wall. But I'm not giving two shits.
It's
watch
a great
this
time
space.
of year, isn't it? Finals time, coming into finals time, rugby league, we've got all this shit going on. There's work, there's kids waking me up and screaming, and my son did a poo. He didn't even poo in the toilet, he pooed on the seat. And I'm like, where is my life going? In this toilet with this poo on this seat. But then I think to myself, yes, thank God for rugby league. Thank God I have a reason to. Your
son's actions are what I call Saturday night.
Yeah.
But moving on from that, the 8th position. Now, this is interesting.
That's what we're on about this. So we were talking about this. We got off topic. Keep going.
There are a few interesting things. So for the Dragons, let's start with the Dolphins.
Yeah.
For the Dolphins to solidify their spot, they need to beat the Knights next week.
They can do it.
And that'll pretty much solidify their spot, and hope that the Dragons lose to the Raiders, which is next week, because they're both on 28 points. So they've got to win. They can also hope that the Dragons lose. The Dolphins have the far superior for and against to the Dragons, because the Dolphins have a for and against of 7. The Dragons have a for and against of minus 124.
So the Finns can lose and still make the top 8.
They can.
But we want them. You want them to win. They're not gonna faff about. They're gonna play hard.
Yeah.
You know? But I think they'll know whether they'll make the top 8 before they play next week. Which is cool. Yeah.
Here's the scenario if they lose next week and still make it. So they'd be hoping that the Dragons lose next week.
Who are they playing? Dragons?
And then if the Knights lose today and the Raiders lose today, and the Dolphins and the Dragons lose next week, then the Dolphins can still be in the 8.
So, a lot of losing. But someone's going to lose.
And this is the thing. Everyone's hoping that everyone else stuffs up. And that they win, and it's just this time of year is keeping a magnifying glass on everyone else's business. You're that peeping Tom that the next door neighbour is calling the police on, because you keep popping your freaking head over the fence to see what's going on. So the Dragons will hope that the Knights and the Raiders lose today. And then they need to beat the Dolphins. They need to win next week. And then also hope that the Dolphins lose next week. So it really sort of drives your head around the bend. You know, trying to work out the levels.
It's good, isn't it? It's healthy. It's scenarios. It's a labyrinth. That's what you said before. Labyrinth. It's a labyrinth.
Now, this one is my favourite.
Okay.
For all you Broncos fans, if you want a little paper cut of light in your life that can maybe see you through to the semis.
Oh, wow. I thought it was impossible. So it's statistically possible for Broncos.
Statistically, but highly improbable. And I would say next to a Tom Cruise Mission Impossible.
Okay.
So here's what I've got for you Broncos fans. You have to hope today that the Raiders lose today. The Knights lose today. The Dragons lose next week. The Dolphins lose next week. And you beat the Melbourne Storm by a grand total of, wait for it, over 35 points.
Okay, that's actually not as impossible as I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say, needing 60 or 70 or, something that rarely ever happens. But that's kind of possible. But, Storm are going to put on their best team too, aren't they? Or
but for me, that's not about the margin. For me, it's about the Raiders losing, which they probably will because they're playing the Roosters.
Oh, Roosters.
But the Knights have a very winnable game against the Titans. And then next week they've got to hope that the Dragons and the Dolphins lose. And they've got to win by that margin, mate. It's pushing more than shit uphill. It's pushing a Toyota Tarago up Mount Everest. Trust me. So the other one is the Knights. There is, as what was said in Rocky 3, when Apollo Creed said to Rocky, "Hey, Rock, there is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow."
There is.
So, the Knights.
The deep stuff there. Deep stuff.
Very deep. But I actually think the Knights have a very, very legitimate chance of making the semis, funnily enough. So They need to win today, though. They lose today, and then that's all over. They can't do it.
Yeah.
So they've got to win today, and then next week they've got to beat the Dolphins.
Yeah.
And then they've got to also hope that the Dragons lose next week.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and what would also help them out is the Raiders losing today. But the Raiders are further back on the scale because their for and against is horrendous. It's minus 131. So
can the Raiders potentially make it though? Is it possible?
They can.
Wow.
So here's what the Raiders have got to do.
Oh God.
The Raiders must win today in the same category as the Knights. But where I like the Knights draw is that it's pretty winnable and it's kind of doable, beating the Titans and Dolphins in consecutive weeks.
Yeah.
And hoping that the Dragons lose to, funnily enough, the Raiders next week. That's all doable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the Broncos are completely out of the equation, as we just discussed. But here's what the Raiders, you Green Machine fans, here's what you've got to do.
Yep.
So they've got to win today.
Yep.
Which is pretty unlikely. They're facing the mighty Roosters.
Yeah, Roosters and Roosters are putting on a good team, you know. They want to stay, they want a home game, you know.
Correct. They've also got to hope that the Knights lose today.
Mm.
Then they've got to beat the Dragons next week.
Yep.
Then they've got to hope that the Broncos lose next week.
Yep. All this is quite possible.
Yeah. And then they've got to hope that the Knights beat the Dolphins next week.
Okay, that's possible too. So the hardest thing in that equation is them beating the Roosters today.
Yeah.
But they beat the Panthers last week. It's not impossible again. Like this is their grand final. This is their grand final now.
And they'll be keeping a close eye on the Knights today.
Yep.
Hoping that everyone's keeping a close eye on the Knights, you know?
Yeah.
The Knights aren't out of sight in anybody's crosshairs, let me tell you. Real sniper material.
What time do we play next week? What time does Manly play? Do you know? Sunday, 2:00, I think it is. Is that right?
I believe so. You know what?
Yep.
I've thought of all these different scenarios and come in with all these different statistics. I don't know that one.
Yeah, it's Sunday. It's Sunday 2:00 because I remember thinking, oh, we've got to do Red Hot Underdogs in the morning, but we won't know the score. So maybe we're going to have to do it in the afternoon or something, Drewy, because, you know, this is too exciting. We can't be like, well, maybe we can be. Oh, the game's about to happen and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, stay tuned. Who knows when we're going to do it? You know?
Stay tuned. Listen.
There is no tomorrow, Drew. There is no tomorrow.
There is no tomorrow.
There's no next week.
There is no tomorrow.
Yeah,
that's right.
No tomorrow. Yeah.
You know, listen, I don't drink, but all of these different combinations and permutations and all these different scenarios would almost force me to having 4 bottles of Jack Daniels and 8 packets of Panadol just to work out this bloody thing.
Cuz just come round, look at all that piss.
I'll come round.
Now listen, I don't know if you know this, but quickly, I we've spoke before this podcast, but I wanted to hear what you think of this. It's related to rugby league and even more than that. Whoa, ding, 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 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Ding, quick. 10 minutes. Jeez,
beautiful,
doesn't it?
It does.
Now, here I was about, looking forward to the Manly Doggies game all week, even put a bet on with my neighbor. I'm reading everything. I'm watching everything. Really excited. Comes to watching it. I grabbed my phone. I had to watch it on my phone. Press the little button to watch it on my phone. And boom, it doesn't work. KO doesn't work. And I think to myself, okay, what do? I can't listen to it on the radio. I managed to, find the radio on my phone. Boom. And I'll also put it on, YouTube. You can watch people, they do the live thing. Actually, that's what I wanted to talk about. That's how I watched the Nikita fight on the live thing, right? Live commentary.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But then I found out on the live thing that KO didn't work. So there's thousands of people out there that KO didn't work when the kickoff happened to watch your special game. You're paying lots of money. Okay, Drew, my point is, right, I want to hammer this home, but all this new technology and stuff, and when you need it, boom, 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 doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, if you want my thought, it is this. Here's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
KO, if you don't lift your game, everybody is going to give you the great big KO.
Yeah.
No questions asked. Yeah. Lift your game, do your job.
And you know what, Drew? I Googled it. Like there's no news about it on Google. Nobody's talking about it. Like I'm really pissed off about this. And the fact that nobody's pissed off but me makes me more pissed off, you know, because I'm paying money to watch this. And when I need it, I press a button and it doesn't work. It's absolutely bullshit. That's what it is. It's bullshit. Can't deal with it.
You know what? I think you just need to walk in to the KO head office and ask for the big cheese right at the top of the building and take it up with him.
Yeah, it did work after a while, but I'm still furious, cuz. I'm still furious.
You still got to walk into that KO head office.
I liked it when you had TV and the TV would just, you know, you didn't have all the streaming and this, you wanted to watch the rugby league, you turned on the TV and it worked.
It's a different world. It's a different world now.
Now when it doesn't work, you can't see anything. Before when it didn't work, it was a bit fuzzy or stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know what you mean.
All right, we'll move on. What else is on your mind, Drewy?
So next week we've got the AFL semi-finals. We'll just do a quick brief rundown on that. Sydney 1 versus 4 play GWS.
Yeah, wow.
This one's a bit unfortunate. I wanted Greater Western Sydney not to finish 4th. I wanted them to finish 2nd or 3rd.
Yep.
Because the winner of 1 and 4 and 2 and 3 goes into the preliminary final.
Yes.
And if you win that, you go into the grand final.
Yes.
Either Sydney or GWS will have to take the long route home.
Yeah.
But the thing is I wanted GWS to be on the opposite side of the draw and be in 2 versus 3 and win that, and Sydney win 1 versus 4. And then you could have had them both in the preliminary final.
Yep.
And they can both get there, but one will have to go the long way around. Because one thing I want is a Sydney versus GWS grand final to give all those Victorians and Melbourneites a great big dog shit sandwich. I've discussed it before. It will be as awkward and undesirable for them as watching a porno of grizzly grandpas and nasty nannies. And none of them want that.
It's a good one.
So,
yep.
2 versus 3 will be Port Adelaide and Geelong.
Yep.
5 versus 8, Brisbane and Carlton.
Yep.
And 6 and 7 will be the Western Bulldogs and the Hawthorn Hawks.
Yep.
So interesting when it comes up. The other thing I really want to get in before we leave, last week we were talking about the US Open tennis.
Yes.
2 out of the top 3 seeds have been eliminated.
2?
It just goes to show you that anything can happen.
2?
Yes, Mr. Carlos Alcaraz eliminated.
I heard that.
And Mr. Novak Djokovic was eliminated by Australian Alexei Poprin in 4 sets.
When that happened?
Yesterday.
Oh my God, I didn't know.
Yes.
How did that happen? What seed is Poprin? What is he?
All right, here's the thing. Djokovic is number 2 seed. Alexei Poprin, wait for it, the 28th seed.
Yeah, wow.
Has beaten Novak Djokovic in, get this, 6-4, 6-4, 2-6, 6-4.
Yeah, big decisive numbers. That's good. That's amazing.
One for the Aussies, mate.
Yeah,
the Aussies.
For the Aussies.
Slightly heartbroken because Djokovic is my all-time hero. I want to see him get to 25.
Yep.
We might now actually be starting to see the end of Djokovic.
Oh, yeah.
just not quite as good. I'm not going to piss on Alexi Poprin's fish and chips because brilliant. You still got to do it, and you have, and that's a huge win. So I don't want to destroy his achievement because it was great. Yeah. Obviously, earlier on in the week, a Dutchman.
Yeah.
God, I hate it when people have a long name. Botic van der Zandschulp.
Van. You got a Van der
beat Carlos Alcaraz 6-1, 7-6, 6-4.
Huge.
But here's the thing. Just this morning, that same Dutchman with the world's longest bloody name has lost to British 25th seed in straight sets, Jack Draper, 6-3, 6-4, 6-2.
No one knows who's going to win this. You know what, Drewy? I know I said this ages ago. Like we've had decades of, big three. There was even a big four, but, just a few people dominating it. Yes. Imagine for the next 10, 20 years, you heard it from me first, that we don't just have 1, 2, or 3 dominating it, that we have like a lot of people kind of dominating it, where no one kind of backs up, more than 3 or 4 wins or 5 wins. Is that possible? It sure is. Is it exciting? I think so. I think it might be kind of cool to have lots of people come and go,
I think it is. I think that we have officially, Federer is retired and Nadal is very much on the back end.
Born.
And Djokovic isn't ploughing through opponents at a rate of knots anymore. So I think we've almost officially completely ushered out the era of the top 3.
Gone.
So, and let me say, although I'm sad about it, I'm not completely devastated. No, it's time to give tennis a nice, fresh coat of paint.
Yeah. And
rather than the same fresh coat of old paint.
Yeah, and lots of new superstars, young. I think it's great for tennis. It's great for tennis, and it will be great to have lots of winners. It really will be great to have lots of winners. And Joker, he'll still be there. I actually am confident he's going to get just one more. We were talking about him getting to 30. Remember all that?
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
To 30, and our expectations have just not even quite quickly dropped to, come on, Joker, just get one more, just one more.
But for the record, I will say this. I find it completely amazing that somebody at 37 is still, and bearing in mind the length of his extremely long career.
Ding, ding, ding. 1 minute to go, Joey. 1 minute to go.
At this level, it's still bloody amazing. But let me say, well done to Alexi Poprin. Hope he goes well. For the record, the number 1 seed, Yannick Sinner, is still in it, and we'll just see how all of this unfolds. Like the Rugby League, completely unpredictable Jekyll and Hyde.
Exciting. Just to sum it up, how good is that Manly win? So good. Feeling really good about it. Bring on the doggies. I want to play the doggies again and stop them getting in the top 4 that we've more than likely done, and then shit in their beat pie, as we said before, and kick them out of the rugby league race in 2024. Come on, Manly.